There are many training knives out there on the market for martial arts and self-defense, and what I want to do in this video is review a particular brand of training knives that I really like and get a lot of models in from, as well as talk about some other ones I'm not a big fan of. Now, the company that I generally get all my stuff through, and as far as I know, it's one guy that makes all of them. The ones I get are made from recycled blue plastic, and he goes by the name of JG Training Knives. Always get the G and the J mixed up, but anyway. And so this is just one of the designs of his knives that I have. This one was actually modeled after an already existing knife. I sent the model to him and gave him the measurements, and then he ended up making this one for me. Among some of the things he made for me was these karambits. Again, this was modeled after an actual design, I think by the company Colt Steel was the original manufacturer of the real karambit. So I've got these great little, plastic training ones here. And some other models that are available was these ones here. I like training with ones that have a really long blade, because if I can block a knife that has a blade this length, then I can block one of a blade length that's shorter than that. And there's also these other models of karambits, and if you ever get the real one, it's sharp here and here. Alright, so the reason why I prefer using these particular plastic ones, first of all, I'm not the biggest fan of rubber training knives, because if you get hit with them you can barely even feel it. I understand that some beginners should be using these ones just to get the feel of motion from ways that the knife can be effectively used in, but ultimately if you give a bunch of amateurs and beginners something like this, something with a point even like that, you can still puncture into the body. Someone that's really strong could do it easily, or even someone that's not so strong that just gets it in at the right angle can still puncture the skin. And I don't mean like just a small little puncture, I mean they could probably put it in that deep, and if it hits other vital organs, well, you get the idea. However, I like training with these ones, right? But keep in mind, you can probably get this guy to make you one where the tip of it is more rounded off, so that if it does hit you at full force, yeah, it can still crack ribs and everything like that, but with any luck, it won't puncture through the skin and cause severe damage. That's my main point. But again, I'm not saying you should do this, alright? But for me personally, that's why I like these ones, because it really motivates me to block this if someone's coming at me like this with vicious stabs. Again, rubber knives, I can't feel that. I don't feel like I'm getting the full benefit of the training, and if I go more extreme and use a real knife, I may as well just set up a tab at the hospital, if I'm lucky enough not to end up in the morgue first. So, and I also don't like using wooden knives that much, because it doesn't matter what kind of wood that they make it out of. Over a long period of time, wood tends to have this, basically they have this tendency to deteriorate and splintery and shit like that, whereas this sort of sturdy plastic doesn't. And this is really, really strong, so I quite like these. I mean, yeah, if you drop it on the concrete, you'll get slight dents in it and stuff like that, but the same thing will happen with wood, alright? So don't act like wood's somehow far superior to a plastic one. And if you are interested in getting any of these knives from JG Training Knives, I knew that, I was just... anyway. So yeah, if you are getting interested in getting any of these knives from the guy, I'll put the link to his Facebook page in the description of this video, and then you can send him a message and work out some deal. Luckily enough, at least Australia-wide, postage should cost the same amount. I mean, there isn't really a difference in mailing costs, at least in Australia from what I know. From distance, they just go on the size of the package, so postage price will go by the weight of the package and quantity, not by how far it needs to travel. At least with me, postage doesn't cost that much, so excellent for this guy. And yeah, he, again, like I said, makes knives of all different varieties. You can go check all that stuff out in his Facebook page. I'm just here to review the stuff that I like getting off him. And I had a lot more models of other karambits and knives, but I either gave them away to some other people as gifts, or I sold them to some other people for less of a price than what I paid for. Anyway, the other reason I like them is because they're blue. So from a distance, it can't generally be mistaken. Hang on. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. From a distance, they can't easily be mistaken for a real knife. So if I'm practicing this at a park or something like that, and other people are at a distance, then yeah, if we're going over reality-based drills where I've got the knife on someone, hopefully speaking, they don't accidentally mistake it as a mugging. But even if they do, because they can't see the knife base and the angle, and they move closer, I can just show that it's, plastic knife. And hopefully if my training partner isn't being a dick on the day, yeah, then he won't pretend like I was actually trying to mug him. And not that that's ever happened or anything before. My final point is that this is not a sponsored video by JG Training Knives. They did not ask me to make this review video for them. I did this on my own will because I really like their products and thought that other people could also benefit from them. So, there it is. Anyway, regardless of what type of training knife you end up with, just make sure that you understand the dangers and the harm that it can cause. As I stated, rubber knives aren't so deadly. Ones like this that have a point can cause penetration, and then there's everything else in between basically a rubber knife and the real knife. So make sure that you understand, even though it's a training knife, doesn't mean that it can't be deadly in certain areas. So my point is that you understand what the knife can and can't do as far as its ability to cause harm, and then train responsibly. So anyway, that's all. Go train, and also stay safe.